Painting with Inktense pencils along with water brushes can be tricky unless you know what to do. So in this tutorial I'm going to show you how. So for this week I'm going to be painting this Gerbera Daisy, and I'm using a selection of colours from my Inktense Pencils range on this watercolour block. This is a 50% cotton block and it comes with a little sheet like this, so you need to remove that before you start painting. Now I've traced down my drawing like this because we want to press on with the painting, and I supply you with a traceable like this so you can just trace it down the old school way. And if you'd like more information on how I do that, I'll put a card on the top of your screen and you can click through and watch it there. But a really simple trace down drawing, and I'm going to be using 2 of these Derwent water brushes to mix my Inktense pencils. Now you can see I've swatched all the colours out here on a separate piece of watercolour paper, and this is how I like to use my Inktense pencils. Rather than applying them straight onto the watercolour paper, this means I get better control and I can use them and layer them up very similar to the way that I would use watercolour. But there is a difference, and I'll explain to you a little bit later on why I almost prefer these to watercolour, and they definitely have their benefits, especially so if you do struggle with watercolour a little bit. All of the colours and materials I'm going to be using I will link in the description box underneath this video. But as you can see, I'm just using my water brush. This is the finest brush I have, and it comes in a set of 4 from Derwent, which I will link underneath. These are absolutely amazing brushes for full control of Derwent Inktense, and you can see me here just picking up the swatches and applying them like this, and then by patting my brush dry on my kitchen paper I can blend it out to get a really graduated wash. We supply you with free reference photographs and line drawings for our tutorials here on YouTube, and I'll tell you later on how you can obtain them so that you can join in with all of our classes here on YouTube. You'll see here I'm just applying these colours one by one to a really watery consistency, building them up bit by bit. Just taking the colour from my Inktense swatches and applying them onto the paper like this. This 50% watercolour paper that I'm using today is brilliant for Inktense because it gives you that capacity to blend, and you can see me here using my damp brush to do just that. It's all about building up your layers. Now the difference between these and watercolour is almost night and day. Yes, you can still build them up, but the beauty of this is quite simply when you build up these colours, when they dry, they don't lift off. If you're used to watercolour lifting off and stopping you from building up your layers, then maybe you want to consider using Inktense pencils. Once that paint has dried, it isn't going anywhere. So once you've applied that paint, it won't lift off. So if you need to build up your colours to get that really dark colour and that intensity that you miss with watercolour, then do try these out for yourself. Once I've picked up that pigment from the swatch cards, as you can see, I'm applying it layer by layer, making sure that each layer is dry before I apply the next. Now at the start of this video I mentioned that we have a free line drawing and reference photograph to accompany this tutorial, indeed all of our tutorials here on YouTube, and there are a couple of ways that you can obtain them, so let's just take a look. We have a couple of ways that you can access our free reference photographs and line drawings. We have our very own private Facebook group, and as a member you can access all of them here. There is another way, and I'll tell you about that in a moment, and in case you're not a Facebook fan, and I know it's not for everybody, I just want to reassure you that our group is really friendly, really helpful and informative, and you can also post up your finished paintings and have feedback from me and our other group members. You can see here some of the completed works in the student gallery. Having positive feedback from your paintings is a great way to learn and a really amazing confidence booster. If this is something that interests you, I'll put a link to the Facebook group in the description underneath this video. But if Facebook really isn't for you, then don't worry, because I'll put a screenshot of the line drawing and the reference photograph right at the end of this video, so be sure to stay right until the end and you can print it off that way. Okay, so now I'm picking up that tangerine colour, and you can see that you can actually build up your layers by applying washes on top of one another. It's really important that the first layer is dry before you apply the next, and because as I've already mentioned, because the colours dry completely, you can layer them up very, very easily. You can see me there just lifting up some of the paint with some of that magic eraser because I made a bit of a mess. This is fuchsia. I've decided to add fuchsia to the equation here, and once again you'll see what I mean by layering up that paint. You can add your colours so that they have that translucency and you can still see those beautiful colours underneath. Picking up some of that lovely poppy red, taking it to the outside edge. I'm not putting any pressure on my water pen here. I'm just using it damp. By squeezing the little button on the side, it lets the water run out. You don't want to flood your water brush with water, you just need that tiny little bit of water just to control that paint. You can see me here graduating those colours with a mixture of that golden yellow and that beautiful cherry red. Once again, building up my layers once the initial layer is dry in the way that you would with watercolour. You notice the colours that I'm picking up here, taking it right to that pencil edge. Derwent water brush is absolutely beautiful. I was really surprised at the precision I could get with this tiny little brush. This is the smallest out of the set that I have, and it really means that I can control my Inktense paint as good as any good quality watercolour brush. You notice how I'm just applying that paint directly onto the paper, wet on dry, patting it onto my kitchen paper and then just blending it out. You can have full control of these paints. As I said earlier on, one of the best things about them is you can keep building up those layers until you get the depth of colour that you want without fear of it going muddy or lifting off the paper. Once that first layer is dry, you'll see that I've taken this colour right to the outside edge there, and I'm not taking that colour everywhere. I want this pretty little Gerbera Daisy to have an element of translucency, so I'm not taking that pigment all over the elements that I put to begin with, leaving some of that colour blank to give it the illusion of depth and form. Picking up some of the tangerine colour and that golden yellow colour here and going around some of the elements of the daisy. You'll notice this week I've left my reference photograph in screen, so if you do want to join in that way, you can do that by just looking at the reference photograph that I've kept in screen for you. Building up my colours like this. Now, I ought to mention that if you do like watercolour painting and botanical painting is your thing, and you really want to level up on your painting skills, then we do have a Patreon where we have full-length tutorials every month. They won't be here on YouTube, so let's just take a look. If you love botanical painting and want to know more, then head over to our Patreon. We have different membership tiers so that you can take your botanical painting to the next level. Every month we launch a brand new painting tutorial covering all things botanical to help you grow. The tutorials are exclusive to Patreon and are ad-free, so if you want to paint like this, then take a look. Link in description. Okay, so carry on building up these layers, just taking up the poppy red colour here and applying it loosely on these little folds with a tiny bit of tangerine mixed in. You can see here quite clearly that those beautiful layers are underneath, and it just gives it that little bit of dimension. Just to let you know that we're also over on Instagram at The Wonders of Watercolour. Do join us there because we have a lot of behind the scenes stuff. We also let you know what's coming up here on YouTube in advance, so do join us over there. We also have things like reels and lots of fun stuff, so do join us there. You can see here with that light touch with that water brush, really gently blending those colours together. The trick with these water brushes is not to squeeze too much water out. I really like this particular brand because they are probably one of the best quality water brushes I've used. It does give you better control, and it's probably one of the best brands I've used for this type of painting. I've added some more colour to my swatch card because once you've activated that pigment on your swatch card, you can't reactivate it because it's dry. And of course, this is one of the benefits of Inktense pencils, is that once it's dry, it won't lift off. It just means that if you need to add more pigment, you need to go in with another little scribble with your pencil. Super easy to do. I'm building up these colours with gold and yellow so that I've got that sort of gentle yellow hue. You saw me there using my Rosemary & Co eradicator brush. This is a really soft brush with a flat edge, which means it helps you eradicate any mistakes. And like I said, I'll put all the tools that I'm using today in the description box underneath this video. If you do struggle with watercolour, I really urge you to try using Inktense instead, and it might let you gain a bit more confidence with your painting, and you may even fall in love with them as I have. I'm adding some sepia here to the base of the Gerbera just to give it a bit of shadow because I felt it was looking a little bit flat. If you have tried using Inktense pencils before and you are in love with them as much as I have a playlist over on YouTube which I will put at the end of this video so that you can check it out for yourself. Everything's dry, so I'm now taking some of that poppy red and applying it over that little fold on that particular petal. As you can see, by blending it out, I'm keeping some of that area uncovered and adding a tiny bit of that golden yellow. Notice how I've kept the bottom section of that fold with the initial wash, so we don't want to take that colour there. Now with my damp brush, just pressing lightly and just lifting out some of that colour to give it a little bit more texture and a little bit of dimension. Just carrying on building up my layers as I go through the tutorial, and you can see here by adding the fuchsia and the tangerine colour together, we create this beautiful glaze, and we can keep glazing over our petals one by one, but making sure that we stay out of some of the lighter tones just to give it that little bit more realism and just a bit of dimension. Adding a bit more of the cherry because that paint has now gone off, and just adding it and building up slowly as I work through. If you are enjoying this video and you like watercolor painting, then you may want to consider subscribing to my channel where I launch brand new content every Tuesday. We have full-length tutorials here on YouTube, so do consider subscribing if you haven't already, and please give me a big thumbs up if you like this kind of content. It means that you support my channel more than you know, and it means the world to me, so give me a big thumbs up if you are enjoying this video. Thank you very much for watching. I'm going to let you watch the rest of this video in peace, watching me build up these colours slowly. I'll put the line drawing and reference photograph right at the end of this video after the outro, so be sure to stay right until the end so that you can screenshot those and print them out for yourself. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you soon.